also automatically, if there's any the practical submission to the classroom, that will be considered as your attendance. Okay, automatically that the submission will be considered as attendance. Also, online student, I already made out the I think by Friday, so if online students submit, that will be also considered as attendance. If we miss, the attendance will be deducted. Okay. Then, from time to time, we will have such a the in-classroom assignment or the pub quiz or something the take-home exam like that. And also, today we are going to have the GCP exercise lab. To save the time, I already sent out the GCP coupon, the link. Do not click yet. We are going to do the activation together. So please do not click yet. So then, this is the new activity. So as I announced at the beginning of the semester, I'd like to use AWS for our computing environment, but this is the first semester, so we are using the GCP mainly, but as an optional, we are going to use the AWS. But regarding to the database, it's nothing different. So same as the MySQL on the GCP, but for your better experience, so I'd like to introduce AWS. So those who are interested in the AWS certificate, okay, eventually AWS certificate. So I'm going to open the optional the lecture on Friday next week, September 20. Location is South Soho 136. So there's a computer lab. Anyone who used the computer lab in South Shore? Nobody? So if you come to the South Shore, so it was used for the graduate student residential hall, but right now it's empty except my office. So I'm the only one. So in that area, so if you come to the South Shore, there is a very nice computer lab. So it's very nice. So we are going to have the AWS, the Cloud Foundation. I think the name is ACF, the certificate. So I'm going to cover the lecture within 3 hours. That actually which require 20 hours lecture, but I'm going to shrink down to the 3 hours lecture in the morning, and after lunch, the Divya will be in charge of the lab. So you already sign in the vocabulary. So probably you will see the first lab only. I'm going to activate all the lab. I think the 6 labs are available. Okay? If you can go over and understand such a lab, you are pretty much understand the very basic foundation of the AWS cloud computing. So for the lecture in the morning, so I'm going to use the material that are available on the books, Vital Source bookshelf. So Vital Source bookshelf, so I think that you guys already are able to access the material. It's a PPT file or the PDF file. So either of them. So it has the lab as well as the presentation file. So you can freeze the preview, because I'm going to pretty much speed up to cover the 20 hours. The lecture in 3 hours, so I'm going to speed up. So please read the material. And the afternoon, we cannot cover the all 6 labs. It takes, I think, almost 5 to 6 hours. So we are going to cover 2 or 3 labs. Okay? Then it will be homework to finish all the other labs. So without understanding the fundamental of the cloud, the AWS cloud computing, it's not easy, especially the VPC. You need to create the virtual private network, but without understanding, even though you know what is the network and the distributed system, but the AWS use their own name, their own concept. So please read the material. But this is optional. You don't have to. But if, for example, if you already took the cloud computing, anyone who took the cloud computing paper? So no, I think you guys can attend this one. But if you want to study by yourself or any complex schedule, you don't have to. But I strongly suggest the database class, the student attend and join it's free. And just bring your laptop. Or you can use the computer in the lab. Okay. Any questions relating to the announcement? Okay, so let's quickly start. So this is our first ER diagram, our conceptual modeling from the company database requirement. As you can see, we have identified the 1, 2, 3, 4, the entity. Especially the dependent is called a weak entity because it doesn't have the key. So key is like the social security number of the employee and the name or number. There are two keys in the department. It's not a problem. If you know about the database, the relational database, you know the primary key. It's different from the primary key. Okay? It's a concept in key. Also, yesterday I taught the big data. In big data, the big data use also the name of key. But the concept of key in big data also different from this. It's just a key to identify the department entity. You can understand the key is identifying the attribute that can specify the specific entity like this. So project is also has a two key, name and number. And however, dependent does not have the key, so it's called the weak entity. The other are called just entity or the strong entity. Or sometimes it's called the entity type. Actually, entity type is the correct name, but we can use it interchangeably. Then also we can present the attribute, a number of attributes that describe that explain each entity type. Okay, so we can identify the number of attributes, and so on. In case the multi-valued attribute, like the locations or colors of car. So for example, a vehicle, when you purchase a vehicle, so nowadays the vehicle has multiple colors, right? Not just gray, not just white, this is something mixed. At that time it can be colors. It's a plural, so it can be the multi-value. However, sometimes we may have the derived attribute, which is not actually the attribute that describes this one. Instead, we can calculate the number of employees by counting the number of employees that works for the specific department. So to save time, so why not creating the attribute that the counting number of employees. So this is called the derived. So in addition to the number of entity, we identify relationship. So relationship type actually works for manage, works on the supervision is a little bit different from the other. So if we consider employee entity, another employee entity. One employee entity is the supervisor, the employee. And the other one is supervising the employee. Even though they are the same, we can consider two entities. Then supervisor, supervising, the supervising. Then we can self-reference the relationship like this one. It's not a problem. And we have the dependent weak entity, which means it doesn't have the key, but using the social security number, we can identify specific dependent. At that time, we can use the rhombus or double diamond that represent identifying relationship. If you already use the Orwin software, so Orwin software you can create the identify the relationship. Okay? Also, then at that time you can use the double rhombus and to represent the weak entity double rectangular. You can see the one to many, one to one, many to many. It's called the cardinality or the relationship. So for example, managing one employee, the manager, one employee manages department, one department. So it's a one-to-one mapping. On the other hand, many employees works for one department, which means I'm employed, I cannot work multiple departments, only one department. So many employees works for one department. However, works on between employee and project. Many employees works on one project, multiple projects. So I works on the project 1, also I works on project 2. At that time, how many hours? Such an attribute can be represented by the associated with the relationship. So relationship also have the attribute. Okay, only many to many has the attribute. Start date of the one-to-one mapping managing. This one is a one-to-one mapping, which means this start date can move to the employee or department because it's a one-to-one. However, this works on hours. You cannot create the hours employee. You cannot create the hours in the project because it's a many-to-many relationship. So we should create the attribute over here. So pretty much, the one more thing is the participation, whether optional or mandatory. For example, double line means it's a mandatory, which means all employees should have the department for working. On the other hand, department should have at least one employee, right? So that will be probably manager because manager is also mandatory. So in case of mandatory, you can use the double line. Otherwise, if optional, one line. Sometimes it's not clear, okay? It's not clear whether this is mandatory or optional. If you are not sure, which one is better? Double line or single line? Optional or mandatory? When you are not sure. Optional, okay? The mandatory double line is a very, very strong constraint, condition, okay? Later, when you create the department, the new department, so for example, this one is a double line, this one is double line. So if you create the new department, you should assign at least one employee as a manager, right? Otherwise, you cannot create, you cannot insert the new data to the database. So that will be the thing. The later, when you design the conceptual design, you can also consider in future, but not right now. So right now you can understand the meaning of that. Okay, that's pretty much the EI diagram, ER modeling that we have done. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
The attribute above department is a multi-valued attribute.
So you mean the attribute of the department?
Yeah, locations.
Locations, yes.
I was going to ask, why isn't name above employee also multi-valued, because it has multiple values?
So this question is the attribute of the locations of the department. Why not? This one is the employee, right? So this kind of, if your requirement is that we'd like to keep track of the location of the office per employee. Nowadays, it may be possible. Even though you work for the HR department, you can work remotely. Like the New York office has the HR department. However, you can work in Dallas. Then remotely you can work. So at that time, if you keep track of such a location of the office per employee, you can create.
But the name of the employee, should that be circled also as a multi-value?
You mean the name of the employee?
Yeah.
So how many different names?
First name, middle initial, and last name.
Yes, that is the one set of name, right?
Oh, okay.
But if you have the legal name, and also as well as the nickname and the multiple name, it can be the double. It can be the multi-value. However, so in this case, there's no specification in general common sense. It can be the one value. But first name, last name is the component. So at that time, we can use the composite attribute. But how can we decide whether this is a composite or single? You can check requirement or application. If you put as a text input on the application, first name, last name separately, you can create the composite like this one. Okay, then pretty much this is done. So I believe the 90%, over 90% of the EI diagram is done by following this step. However, there are 2-3 more things. The first one is the cardinality. So our cardinality of the relationship, like the employee works for department. This one is works for relationship, and it's a double line, and the employee should have the what? Is it the double or it's a double? Okay, which means it's a many to one relationship. Suppose that HR department or the company changing the policy buyout. Each department should have at least 4 employees. At least 4 employees. One is the manager, at least 3 other employees. So to create a new department, that is a new policy. Then can we represent such a constraint, such a new policy using one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many? No, right? It just indicates whether one or is the many. There's no option for 2 or 3 specific degree of participation. So in case you have very specific condition, like for example, at least 4, so minimum 4, maximum unlimited. Unlimited. Okay. At the time, we can create to represent this one, minimum degree and maximum degree. So instead of the unlimited, we can use this one. So minimum and maximum. For example, in case of the employee, so employee can work for how many departments? Minimum 1 department. Maximum 1 department. So minimum 1, maximum 1. Because if this one is multiple, it's supposed to be many to many, right? So minimum 1, maximum 1. Then it's comparing to 1 to many, which one is more detailed? So this notation is more detailed. So this one is called min, max, degree of the cardinality. So min, max notation. So when you have the more details, when you need more details of the such a cardinality, we can use min-max notation. But don't be confused. A lot of students confused. This one is okay. Many to one, one to many. Many employee works for 1 department. 1 department has many employees. However, this one, this is a many side. It's a 1, 1. Especially minimum, decide what? Whether optional or mandatory. If this one is 0, 0 means optional, not participate. And this one is, even though it's one side, minimum something number and maximum number of employees. So it looks, many students actually confused. This one is here, this one is here. But min-max notation explain what is the degree of participation. Minimum 1, maximum 1. What is the degree of participation to this relationship from department? Department, minimum 4, maximum n. Okay, like that. So this is called the min-max notation. So for other example, manager. Manage is 1 to 1, but not all employees are managers. So minimum 0 department manager. I'm managing 0 department. 0. Maximum how many departments can you manage? 1. So that is 0, 1. Minimum, maximum. From the department point of view, department should have at least 1 manager. So minimum 1. Maximum how many manager? 1. So 1, 1. Then we can understand precisely how the employee and department are related. So this is another example. Let's see this one, ER diagram. It's exactly the same as the previous one, but except the cardinality. Cardinality we are using what? Min-max notation. So let's take a look at this part, the supervisor. So this is the supervisor side. Supervisor side. So how many the supervisor you have? CEO does not have a supervisor, right? So minimum 0. Okay? Minimum. Oh, no, not that way. It's a supervisor side. It's a supervisor. This is the employee. This is the employee. This is the supervisor. Okay? So, at this time, if you take a look at the this one, this is one side, the supervisor, and this is the many side, the supervising. Many supervising, okay? One supervisor has many supervising. Many supervising, supervised by one supervisor. This is a one-to-many relationship. Then, if we convert this one into the min-max notation, so employees at the supervising side, how many supervisors does each employee have? How many supervisors? One. Maximum? One. CEO does not have a supervisor. The minimum? 0. So minimum 0, maximum 1. For this side, how many supervising do you have? You are supervisor. How many? Many. N. Maximum. I just joined the company, organization. Do I have any supervising? No. Only I have a supervisor, manager. Okay? So minimum 0, supervising I have. So 0 and n. 0, comma n. So this is the min-max notation to represent, to explain details of the subject cardinal. Let's take a look at the many-to-many case, employee and project. So employee, 1 comma n means what? Minimum 1 project, maximum n number of project. No limitation. Project side, how many employee? At least 1 employee works on, and many employees can work on. So this is a many-to-many. So we can use a min-max notation. However, in real, I never seen, actually, in my experience, I worked for the database design as an administrator, the database and the architect. I never seen the min-max notation. It's only from the textbook. But you can understand, if needed, you can use even ER diagram. Mostly you write. So after you create the ER diagram as a result of your conceptual design, you can write down more specific the condition, like the, for example, the 4 number of employees are needed to create the new department. But you can use also ER diagram. Another thing is we already talked about the other the notation. So another popular notation is crow foot. The notation. Crow foot is like this one. Okay, it's like a crow foot, bird foot. So this side is main side. Okay, this one, and also you can use the optional and the mandatory using this one. It's very similar as the such a UML notation. So we can also use the UML notation to represent the ER diagram. So this is the exactly same as the min-max notation that we create. So you can see the minimum 4, maximum the unlimited, and the minimum 1, maximum 1 for the works for the department manager is like that. Okay, the last one is the sofa. All the relationship over here, how many entities for each relationship? 1, 2. Manage 1, 2. Control 1, 2. What about this one? Supervision. Employee and employee. It's a 2. Right? We can consider one employee as a supervisor, another employee as the supervisor. It's also 2. So which means all of these relationships are called binary relationship. So binary relationship. Meaning two entities are joined to explain the relationship. What about three? Three? Maybe possible? Yes, possible. So why not? So for example, employee works for the specific department with the something project. So whenever I'm assigned to the department, I should have my own project. Okay? Otherwise, so I cannot be assigned the specific department. For example, so at the time, project is entity. Employee is the entity. Department is also entity. At that time, we can create a relationship for like the assignment, like that. So these are called the ternary relationship. Eventually, it is theoretically possible n number of the entities can be related. It's called the n-ary relationship. So that is called the higher degree relationship. But I never seen the four entities for the one relationship. But ternary is possible. So let's take a look at the example of such a ternary relationship. This is a typical example of the ternary relationship. Three entities are involved. How many relationships? One relationship, supply. So supplier supply the project for the specific part. Okay? The lead supplies the item, the computer, okay, to the NASA project. So I'm supply. Supply is a relationship. Then the supplier name is the entity, and item part is the entity, and the specific project is the entity. So these are the ternary relationship. It's okay for conceptual design. Later, when we create the database, especially relational database model, cannot understand that this is a ternary relationship, only binary. So, is there any other way in the conceptual level to change? So these two, B and C, are the options to change ternary relationship into the many binary relationship. So first example is, we can create the supply. We can create the binary between supplier part. We can create the part and the project relationship like this. Okay? So this is one option. Another option is, why don't we create the supply as an entity, but it's a weak entity. So because it's actually not entity, but we consider as an entity, but it's a key. Is the combination of the supplier, project, and part, like using the weak entity and the binary relationship. So we can create another entity instead of the supply, the ternary relationship. Then we can have the 1, 2, 3 relationship. Question. Do you think A and B are the same one? A and B. Same or different? Same. Any other? Same. Actually different. So, for example, I have a part here. This part should be used for the project and also supplied by me, right? So all three should be related. However, in this case, I supply computer, I supply car, I supply board, not everything. But project use some of them. Not all part will be used. Right? So this is the relationship, and this is a relationship. Then I supply which item? We don't know. We need to check this one and supply. So there might be entity that are not related to the project. Okay? There might be supply which I cannot support. Okay? So project need this one, but I can supply only part of the part. Okay? So this one is more general, not actually that project understand the meaning of ternary relationship. Okay? This one is the same. It restrict only this two, only this two. So there might be additional entity or part that's not actually used for the specific project. So you should be careful when you convert into such a number of binary relationship. Sometimes you may have the unrelated entity can be used, but roughly, so they are the same meaning, but actually not exactly. So you should be careful when you create the database. Another example is this. So how to overcome such a yes?
So in previous slide,
yes.
we consider M and N notations. Then many suppliers can pass.
The which one? A, B, C.
You said B1.
The B1.
So you said like only some parts only can go to that project, only used by projects.
Yes.
So but in notations there are many suppliers can use like n number of parts, again
yes.
n number of parts, again.
Yes.
So it's like again.
So for example,
right?
that's a good question. So Lee, supply the project. So Lee supply the project one. That's it, right? I have a certificate. We do not know what the part are needed. Okay? So, but not regardless of such a certificate, permission of the supply of the P1. So I have the item, okay, part. So part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, this is all my item I can supply. Then project 1 actually need only this item. Okay, it's use. The P1 used this. What about these two, P2 and P3? It cannot be actually a ternary relationship. But you may have such an additional, unexpected data. Okay, so that is the thing. So, but database cannot understand this ternary relationship later. Because of that, we are mostly create a binary relationship and create such a constraint later. Okay? So another example is the teaching. So instructor offer so I'm available next semester. Each course we need to create another relationship. And this course should be offered in the specific semester. So to combine, so there are sometimes we can create instead of this one, we can create another offer with entity, okay? Then create the relationship, and this relationship, okay? A lot of constraint. But if we have the ternary relationship only, so we can actually one shot. As a one shot, we can constrain all the data. Okay, so then the last thing of today's lecture. For such a design, simple way you can use handwriting. It is okay when you have the small size of database, like less than 10, even more than 10, not easy. So at that time, we need to use the help of software. So there are a number of software used in the database modeling. Nowadays, database modeling tool is not only for the database design. It's a software management tool. Okay? So like for example, nowadays is a component, the programming. Like when you design the object-oriented modeling, automatically create the class, name of class and the constructor and so on. Then you can add the ER diagram that automatically create the database. Then the connect. So it's kind of software, the management tool. So most popular one is still the Orange software. So Orange software. So you can download the Owen data modeler. Then I can practice ER diagram. So it's just how to use the software. I believe you can understand, figure out which button is for what. So then submit the output of the company database ER diagram as well as your homework. Okay. Next class we are going to cover the extended ER modeling. So today we have roughly 40 minutes. So I'm going to activate your coupon. So to save our time, why don't you open your Canvas? If you go to Canvas, I already sent out the message. So I think that such a message is like this one. So first thing, before you click the button, there's a restriction of using the Google Cloud Platform, GCP console. So AWS provides a console and GCP provides a console. It's a web interface. So through the console, you are able to use any service of the cloud computing. So Google probably asks a Google account, right, to use the console. So what about the my.bridgeport.edu, which is basically Google account. So we are using the G Suite. It's a Google product. So UB IT admin actually restrict the permission of the UB account, not developer account, developer permission. So you cannot create any GCP, the service. You cannot create the virtual machine, you cannot create the MySQL, you cannot create the project using my.bridgeport.edu, unfortunately. Many universities actually restrict such a developer option. So you cannot use the bridgeport.edu account for GCP service. Instead, the best way is before you click, you can copy and paste the link first. Copy and paste. Then open browser. Probably in my case, I log on the Gmail account. Probably your primary Gmail account, Google account is my.bridgeport.edu. Why don't you open the new incognito window or private window? If you are using the Mac OS, why don't you open the private window or incognito the window? Okay, and paste the link. So for example, copy and it will ask the username, password of your Gmail, Google account. Do not put the my.bridgeport.edu. It will not work. So your individual Gmail account. Anyone who do not have the individual Gmail account, everybody has. Why don't you use that? Okay.
So I clicked it when you sent it out, and it let me use let me sign up with the Gmail.
Yeah.
Or with the
my.bridgeport.edu. It will not go. I will give another code. So I will give another code. So anyone who do not have the individual account, then you need to create. So please do not use the my.bridgeport.edu. Okay? Then if you type your own, then you will see. I will give after I finish this one. I will give another one. So you will see like this one. And your coupon code is already there. Okay. when I send the link. Then if you want to receive, yes. If you don't want, don't know, and whatever, then accept and continue. Okay, so in your case, let me send another.
Did it look like it worked?
It worked, but you cannot create the project.
Professor,
Yes.
this is showing that the coupon code you have entered is invalid.
So why don't you check? Wow, it's very small, very hard to see. Okay, so you're learning.
Chris Larson?
CH. Larson. Okay, so I'm going to send only the code. Then you can replace from the previous link. Anyone who has the problem, I will give another the coupon code. Okay, then if you are okay, so you should be able to see this kind of console. Maybe much more complicated. So a lot of. So this is a kind of a dashboard. Okay. Here you are able to use any service you can find. If you click the home button, you can see a bunch of services. You don't have to worry about too much. So we are going to use mostly the virtual machine and database and the app engine. And also you can see the tile over here is the information. You can feel free change. So if you are not very interested in something, so you can change. If you more, then select. And if you click the right hand side, is the dot. There are some options you can use. Especially the tutorial is very useful. So for the menu, always if you cannot find it, always search or use this button, and you can find a bunch of them. Mostly we are going to use the VM instance and the database and also the app engine. Or you can search. And so if you go to the right hand side, you can see the built-in the tutorial. This is very useful. And also you can use the code lab for your practice and so on. But if you need more information about the GCP, I already uploaded to the Canvas, or you can go to this is my Google Drive. You can find more information about how to deploy web application and the data store, and the Cloud SQL is for the NoSQL database. And more the research related to this one you can find. And also you can go to the Canvas and file, then you can find some document. Okay, then I'm going to give the podium to the Divya. Divya will start your first lab. Okay, I will help you. If you have any problem, raise your hand. Do you have HDMI?
Yes.
Okay. So Are you okay? Yes. First, they need to create a project.
Yeah, yes, please.
If you need, later you will realize the balance will be lower, especially database is much more expensive than other service. So in case it's dry up, zero balance, then let me know. Google usually would like to give the coupon because they want to see how much each class need and so on. So don't freak out. Just let me know that I'm going to contact Google, then we'll get more extra coupon. Yeah, so I think that this one, so you have it looks okay right now. So do you have the VGA also? Yes. First thing, what we're going to do is we are going to create a project. So under the project, you can create something. You can create a database, you can create your virtual machine, you can do the machine learning, you can do any other stuff. But first, you need to create a project. Also, that project should have credit card information. It's not free. Okay? Instead of credit card information, we are going to use the $50 coupon code. So $50 coupon code will be linked to the project. So up to the $50, you are going to use the Google, the research. So that is what you're gonna do.
So as you all are starting for the first time, you will not have any project in your folder. So what we are going to do, we are going to first create a project. As you can see, you can use this tab for browsing all the services you want. So here you have an option to create a project.
So DBR already created a lot of projects, so you can use the new project.
So I am giving my project a name and I am clicking on create.
Yes.
Where did you go to make the new project?
So you can click this one. Yeah. And you can see the new project.
So here it takes some time to create new project and you can see the progress here. Like once it is done, it will show like this. So you can click on the project and this is how your project window will be like.
And also it's a good idea to use our exercise lab document.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you open the PDF file and use the Alt tab you can use for some that.
So from here we will see how to create an SQL instance. You can directly type SQL here.
If you do not know where is the service, always search.
Even to see the service, you can scroll down here, you can see SQL. You can even click on this one as well. So then to create an instance, you will be in this page. You can stop me anytime if you are not able to follow. So I will click on create instance.
There are two relational database supported. The one is MySQL, another one is the PostgreSQL.
So here for us, we are using MySQL to connect. Like we are creating MySQL instance, so you will click on choose MySQL. This is you're giving a name for your SQL instance, MySQL instance.
This is the database name. So instance means the database. In one server, you may create many databases, many instances. So for your laptop, so after you install the MySQL, you can create a number of the instance. That is the instance name. So instance name will be used to connect when you connect.
So here you will be setting up a password. This password is used for you, like you will use this password to connect to the instance each time. So please try to keep it as simple as possible and remember it. So for my convenience, I am keeping it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Don't be confused. This password is for the database, the admin password, root password of your database, not your server. Okay, you don't know where is the server yet. So this is the root, database root.
So to fill further details, you have it here as well in the PDF file, and we will be setting the same here. So here you will be selecting US East region.
Question: if I select the Asia for the region, what is the difference?
Your database will be housed in Asia.
Money. It will be expensive because you are going to use the network. So please use the nearest one. The east probably the cheapest one.
And select US East 1B zone. Click on show configurations, and here check if the public IP is enabled.
So if you do not open the IP for public, you need to specify the client. So first, why don't you select the public IP, then you can easily connect.
So here by default the public IP is checked in, so you have to make sure it is checked in or not. And you're selecting the storage type as HDD.
But production system, real system, you'd better select the SSD because it's much faster. Okay, but to save the money, so you can select the hard disk drive because our performance is not critical right now. And also the machine type, so you can change it, whatever, but the smallest micro server, it will be the first option to save the money. Okay, if you select the multiple, the CPU and the big size of memory, every day you should pay the $50, something like that, really.
So you can select DB-F1 micro and click on select. So you can see this got changed. And you will enable auto backups, and you will uncheck this box, enable binary logging.
For the developing and production system, definitely you need to consider the backup. That's very important, especially if you have your own database on your PC or the server. Backup can be easily ignored. But here it's just click, so you can back up the database.
And then click on create.
Do you think of what happened when you click to create?
Place will be imported first.
The place will be what?
Reserved first.
Virtual machine. The first virtual machine server will be allocated. It's not create, it's a allocation. There might be cluster system, such a big cluster system. Based on your request, that amount of resource will be allocated So from your side, it looks like your own computer. Then after the virtual machine is created, then the database instance will be started. They are not going to install the new software, it's already there. Okay? So they try to enable and permission and so on. So that's what's going on. It takes time. So you can see the top right corner, the bell is turning, and you can check the button. The macro will be the type of your server. You can click the change and see the option. The smallest one first. So you can feel free change the option, see the delete, and until you confident. Okay. So for your practice, why don't you feel free to create the create delete until you are confident. So that's the user. When you download and install such a database on your laptop and server, many times you install and delete, install, delete. So if you delete right away, it doesn't cost anything. Okay? So please try the other option. And database service is slightly expensive than just a virtual machine. If you want, you can create a virtual machine. Okay? Then install the MySQL by yourself. No difference. So you are able to. But this is a service for user to easily create the MySQL database instance. If you want to use the PostgreSQL is one of the most popular, the open source, and all this one, and also it's kind of one of the best relational database management system. Okay, but commercialized, it's in the market not much used. But in terms of architect, it's much better than MySQL and other relational database. Depending on the service and overhead, it takes a time, but it will be great. So next one, probably you should be able to connect the database. So, but not only database, any service on the cloud computing. There are basically two ways to connect. So one is you can use the GCP console. One is web interface. They provide a web interface to start, to stop, and the see monitoring web interface. You will see after your database is created, you will see a lot of options. Another thing is the GCP provide. If you see the top right, the first icon of this one. Yes, that one. If you click, it's called activate the cloud shell. If you click that button, the GCP actually create the very small instance for you to access your entire GCP service. It's a small server, okay, small computer. It will be available only 30 minutes, or 30 minutes, something like that. So you can use it. If you are familiar with the command line, so you can use that one. So other way is from outside, from your laptop or from the computer. So outside the cloud, you are able to access. So I think
The instance got created.
her database created.
Yeah.
So everybody is done. And he's waiting. Sometimes it's slow.
So if you click on the database here, you will find all the options that Professor was telling you about.
So even though you don't know anything about the relational database, just go over the menu, like the tab and the option, the function to do. So most of them, so you can intuitively understand what is the import. Import, bring something, and export, pull out the data, and restart, stop your instance, or even delete.
Yeah.
Clone might be copy, so make the server based on that.
So if you go down, you can see the public IP address that of the instance, the database public IP address, using which you can connect to the database. And if you go further, you can see there are other options for connection.
So based on later you will see AWS is much more complicated for such a network topology. But the GCP basically without such a virtual private cloud network, the VPC, you can create your virtual machine, and then whether you are going to set up the firewall. So in this case, you allow the public access. So there is a public IP address. It's outside of cloud service. So from your laptop using 34. Public IP, you are able to. But you should be careful. Not only this public IP, there is a port number. So she will show what is the port number and how to access.
So here further you can see who, like if you create any users, you can see them. As of now I have only these 2 users. You can see the databases, like if you create any databases, then it will be showing up here.
Everything you are able to see the same information after you connect the database also.
So for connecting to our database, we first have to add our IP address, the system's IP address to the connections. You have to go to connections, and here you will click on authorized networks. So here you will be adding. So to find your system's IP address, you can just type my IP address.
So here this is a public IP, but you should open the client IP from this side. It's a block, so you need to find. But the problem is we have the UV network, so sometimes yes.
It is different, like you find your one IP address here. When you go home and connect to your internet, then you will find another IP address. So in case you want to access the same instance at home, you have to again add it the same way.
And also later, if you build another virtual machine that has the web server, okay, web server. The web server connect the database to not public IP, internal IP address, but you should allow to access this one.
So you will copy that IP address, give it a name, and then paste that IP address.
Which means we are going to allow the PC.
And click on done. So it is not completed only if you click on done, so you have to save it each time you add some network. And click on save.
If that doesn't work, worst case you can allow all IP address 0, 0.0.0.0. That allow all IP address. You learned in your network class, right? The class it covered the specific range of IP address you can assign. So 0.0.0.0 allow all IP address.
So now for me it got saved. So I'm going back to overview, and now I'll be connecting from my system to the instance, to the database. So in the command prompt, go to the folder where you have your MySQL.
Everybody has the MySQL client?
If not, you have to install it.
Yeah. So why don't you type the MySQL, just the command line? If you enter, just enter right now. If you do not see this kind of message, so you should install the MySQL client. So do you have? So otherwise they can use why don't you use the console? If you do not, yes. It has MySQL also, right?
Yeah.
You can use because it will take a time to download and install. So later you can try. Otherwise you can use your cloud share.
You can click on this and then start your console.
If you have the MySQL client you already installed, then please use. Otherwise, so you can use this one.
In case you're stuck anywhere, here are, this has the steps of connecting to MySQL instance. we have done adding our IP address. So now we will be connecting to the MySQL instance.
Okay, so if you are ready, why don't you connect the MySQL instance using the MySQL, the application. So to connect, this is a MySQL database you create. So this is a kind of the cloud shell. This is your PC. So you open this IP address. So, but you don't have to open this one because cloud shell is kind of the command line console. So it's open. So you can access. So from here, you should have to connect the database. You should have the client program to access the database. That is called the MySQL client. Oracle has Oracle client. SQL Server has a SQL Server client. And any database has their own client software. Similarly, this one already has a MySQL. Could you type the MySQL? Just MySQL. And enter. So you can see that this one, you need to specify yes, it already installed the MySQL. So you are able to use the MySQL client to connect. It's the same the option to connect. So but later, after you install this one, please try at home. Okay, go ahead. But to do that, you need to open your IP address.
Yeah. So you will be typing MySQL and you will give the host, which is the IP address of the instance.
So this IP address. So your virtual machine IP address.
And you will specify the user as root.
So you don't create any other user yet. So root is the default admin user. And you already set up the password.
So if you type this and click on enter, it should ask for a password. Here you will give the password that you have set up while creating the instance. I gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and I clicked on enter.
What about the port number?
The port number was fine because I went.
It's fine?
Yeah.
Okay. If not specifying, there is a default port number will be used. Why don't you go to your client and connect from the command line?
So here you can see it
I
has.
think this one also blocked. We need to open the IP address for this. I think that this one is still waiting.
Yeah.
We need to check the IP address of this one, you can type the ifconfig. So Control C and the ifconfig. Enter. So you can see the IP address of the So 172 is the Docker Ethernet. I think that we can use the Ethernet. You can open the both of them.
Yes. So I am adding the connection, the IP address again.
So internal IP address, I thought it's open, but they blocked, so you can open.
Which IP did you use?
So I am adding both of them, the Ethernet one and the Ethernet
Yeah, why don't you open the both of them? Probably it's Ethernet 0, the interface. The Docker will be used for another service. Private network cannot be whitelisted, which means I don't think that's the problem. Okay, so I think that there might be the stronger something network the restrict. I will figure it out. Okay, so why don't you go back to the client?
Yeah.
Probably it's open. Based on my previous experience, it's open, but port number should be open. I will check it and let you know. But after you create the client, so you are able to access.
So here this has connected to the instance. So to check, we can do our SQL commands here, execute them. I'm asking it to show databases. So if you remember, if we have gone to the databases, it showed the 4 databases here as well. So this is doing the same.
Okay, let's just start here
Yeah.
today. Okay, so then your job is if you do not install the client MySQL, why don't you install the client MySQL? In case of a MacBook, are you using the homebrew? Why don't you use? I think that for computer science student, you'd better install the homebrew. Using homebrew, you can quickly install the MySQL. Otherwise, you need to download the MySQL, the client software, and install. Otherwise,
Can you repeat that?
so homebrew. So that is the installation, the pack, the software. Okay, then the other, you can install the MySQL, the client module, then follow the step. But when you are doing the same lab at your home, you need to set up your home IP address. Okay, so because otherwise, for your first practice, you can open all the port by specifying 0.0.0.0. That open all the port. I will figure out the connection from the cloud share. So probably it's not the IP address problem. It's for I think the port number and something other.
Send me a screenshot of your you connected to the IP address, like the instance created, and a sample table created from the instance, like from the command line. Send me this message screenshot, and then that you are able to create some sample
Is it
table.
working? You cannot enter. Then why don't you try this? And because I do not use the cloud share. Actually, it's connecting, but it takes a long time.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason.
Yeah. In her case, it asks her the password. It takes a long time.
Yeah, it asked a password for me, but it's taking
I
very long.
asked the password also. It's not denied, so it takes some time. I will figure it out, but how can we use the cloud share to connect the MySQL? But mostly you can use the client module or the other, the virtual machine. Or if you want to open all the client IP address, you can put the 0.0.0.0. That open the all IP address. For your practice purpose, not the test and the production system. Okay?
You just have to give it like this and click on save.
You are using MacBook? So for the MacBook, so you can use the homebrew. For the installation, it's called the homebrew. So this is kind of the software. to manage the other software, especially for computer science students. It's very useful. And using the brew command, you can brew install MySQL. Then it's actually the install latest version.
So before closing, please don't forget to stop your instance because you will be charged if it is in the running mode. So you have to click on stop. So again, whenever you want to use it, you will find the restart option. You can click on it and use.
So please, currently we are not going to use a lot the MySQL right now. We will use when we cover the SQL and the other part. So during that time, if we are not using, but for your practice you can use. If we are not using, please stop or delete. Okay, then we can save the money until we are going to use. But feel free to use your GCP service, mostly virtual machine and the SQL and also the app engine. So we are going to practice with the Python and Django. So there are the practice also your exercise lab document has the details of that. A little bit outdated, so based on the last semester, every time the Google update their service, so you can you can figure it out. It's just a new menu or new options, so you can figure it out. Please try to can use the GCP service for your project. Okay. And as she announced, please submit the screenshot of your connection to verify that you complete the first one. Any questions? Okay, so thanks so much. Could you find how to access the, I think the last time there might be